In this lesson, we're going to go through 3 levels of soloing over complex jam band chord progressions. So we'll look at 3 progressions. The first one is Fire on the Mountain by the Grateful Dead. They're all Dead songs. But first one's Fire on the Mountain. The second one is Scarlet Begonias. And the third is Deal. And it's going to progress in difficulty or how much I explain what I'm doing before soloing. First off, I would recommend before going into this lesson, having a solid understanding of the cage system and triads. Those will be really helpful for going forward with this. If you want lessons on the cage system, on triads, on scales that are very jam band oriented, Tough Club is the place to go. It's my online jam band guitar course. And if you're interested in one-on-one teaching from me personally, check out the link in the description. You can book your call and I'll build you a personal plan for progressing with the program. So the first song that we're going to look at is Fire on the Mountain. The chord progression is a B to an A. Right? That's it. That's the entire progression. So what I can determine from that is that considering this chord progression, right, where we have like the 1 right here and the flat 7 here, I'm going to play in B Mixolydian, which looks like this. So the first level of soloing over a jam band chord progression is to think about where the chords fall within the scale that you're playing in. So when we're playing the B Mixolydian, we're playing off of this B chord shape, right? This very basic major pentatonic scale, but we're adding in the 4, the flat 7, the 4, and the flat 7 right there. So what I'm going to think about is when the B chord is being played in the progression, I'm going to play any of these notes that come from this chord shape, right? Because I mentioned that this is sort of this is like the skeleton around that major pentatonic scale. Now, when it switches to the A chord, I'm going to play one of these notes. You see how this chord shape falls right over this scale, right? Or if I were to play the Mixolydian. The A chord is right here, and it's actually, like here's a flat 7 right here. There's the 4, there's the flat 7, there's the 2, there's the 4, and there's the flat 7 again. So that means that when I'm soloing over this song, I don't even need to move outside of the B Mixolydian. I can play all right here. When the B chord's being played, I'll play the pentatonic notes, and when the A chord's being played, I'll play those Mixolydian notes, I'll play the 4s, I'll play the 2s, because I know that those belong to this chord, right? So this is what that would look like in an actual solo. The second song that we're going to look at is Scarlet Begonias. Now, with Scarlet Begonias, the chord changes are a little bit faster. So that brings me to the next level of this jam band soloing. In this level, you are going to add in triads. Now, triads are kind of like a more condensed way of thinking versus those big chord shapes that we were talking about with Fire on the Mountain. The chord progression for Scarlet Begonias is an E for going into the verse, to a B, back to an E, back to a B, down to an A, E, and that again. And then it repeats. So it's 3 chords total. It's a B, an E, and an A. Now what I want to do is, I don't really want to play down in this scale. Again, I just did it over Fire on the Mountain, and also I want to show you it in a different place. So I'm going to choose a different scale. I'm going to think about what those chords all have in common and what key they might belong to. Now, with my knowledge of the Nashville number system and also just experience playing a bunch of different songs, I know that that has to be in the key of E, right? If E is the 1, A is the 4, B is the 5. So I could do two things. I could play in B Mixolydian again, or I could play in E major and then just target triads for each of those chords. I'm going to do the latter. So if I'm thinking about kind of a mixture between this E major scale and this one, right? So it's kind of like that typical major scale and then the box associated with it and that E-shaped scale right past this. What I want to do is find a triad for each of those chords. So I know from the Cage system that there's a B triad right here, a B major triad. Now I also know that if a B is here, there's an A major triad right there. There's an E major triad right here, right? So I'll show you what each of these come from. This B major triad comes from this chord shape. It's like the D shape of the B chord. Same with this A. Now for the E, it comes from this. So when I solo, what I'm going to do now is instead of thinking about full chord shapes across all 6 strings, I'm only going to think about those triads. My foundation for soloing is going to be those major scales. That's going to give me the proper amount of notes to be able to play around with, in between those chord tones that I'm targeting. But then specifically when those chords are changing, I'm going to look for one of those notes in one of those triads and hit it to sort of agree with the fact that the chord is changing, if that makes sense. So if I'm doing a very, very simple, just E to a B, I might do... Right, see that? So all those random notes that I'm playing come from E major, and then when that chord is changing, I'm just hitting notes from each of those triads. So this is what that would look like for soloing over Scarlet Begonias. The third level of jam band soloing in this video will be displayed over the chord progression to Deal by the Grateful Dead. Now, this chord progression is the most complicated out of all 3 of these. You've got an A, a C sharp 7, an F minor, E, D, D sharp diminished 7, then A, F sharp minor, B7, D7, C sharp 7, F sharp minor, E, D, D sharp diminished, A, G, D, A, G, D. Tons of chord changes, and they're really quick. So this is why it's the next level of it, for 2 reasons. First off, everything's moving faster, so you have to think faster. Secondly, you now have minor triads, and you have dominant 7 triads. So we're not just working with major chords anymore. We're actually expanding out so that we can accompany a few different types of chords. So what I'm going to do here is first off establish the key that I'm playing in. This is in the key of A major. Even though there are a few chords that are non-diatonic or don't fit in the scale, overall this song is in A. So the C sharp 7, for example, that's non-diatonic. This D sharp half diminished is not, but everything else pretty much is. The G is not, but everything else is. So what I'm going to do is find a triad for each of these chords and target them over the progression. So for the A, right? If I'm assuming that we're playing in this typical major scale, I have an A triad right here. I have a C#7 triad right here, right? It comes directly from this chord. I have an F# minor triad right here. The next chord is an E triad, D triad, and then I've got this D# diminished. Personally, I kind of ignore this for right now because it's such a fast chord. It passes by so quickly. So I just keep on playing in this major scale over that. Now, then you got an A, and then you go down to the F# minor, same triad again. And then you got a B7 right here, and then you got a D7 right here, which you can also play like that. So all I'm doing is just collecting triads that I can then layer over the one scale that I'm playing in, being A major in this case. And then when I go to solo, I'm just going to try to access those as quickly as I can. So I'll use the A major scale as my foundation, and then the triads as those more like specific notes that I'm targeting over each of the chord changes. So this is what it would sound like in a solo. So this video was intended to be kind of just a tutorial in how you can do this yourself, right? A lot of the stuff that I do in Tough Club and a lot of the stuff that I do with my private teaching is centered toward giving you the proper theory that you need and understanding of what's going on behind the scenes, but at the same time, giving you the tools to be able to then redirect that into your own learning and your own playing, so that you can start to do this with other songs that you like and you don't have to rely on YouTube videos. So I would recommend maybe picking a few different progressions that you like that are pretty simple and trying the same exercise. Start out with one scale, target each of the chord shapes, then find triads, target each of those while you're playing within the scale, and then expand it to the whole neck so that you're not just stuck to one scale. Again, if you want lessons on all of this stuff, this is what a bulk of Tough Club is about. It's about soloing, improvising well and creatively, melodically, obviously with all the other, theory stuff around chords and rhythm and everything. So again, if you're interested in that, definitely go check it out using the link in my bio. If you want one-on-one teaching from me, there's a link in the description for that too. But yeah, otherwise, good luck. I'll see you in the next lesson.